Well, they managed to do it. Marvel managed to actually make a movie that's worse than Thor 2: The Dark World. And in so doing, Marvel has made the worst movie of the MCU. And that is, of course, Thor Ragnarok. I don't even know where to begin. This movie is so bad on so many levels. I'm going to assume that it's staying canon to the comics. Did a Google search, I looked through a number of images. I didn't see any images of Thor with short hair, where he wasn't wielding his hammer. But that's one of the first problems of this movie. So let me back up a little bit. Why is this movie such an utter pile of garbage? First of all, it's all over the place. We have different storylines going on. We have a storyline where Hela takes over Asgard, and we have a second storyline, which is where Thor is on another planet, and he meets up with the Hulk, and he's some sort of gladiator, and they get into a fight, so on and so forth. And so that second plot is about Thor breaking out of the captivity of the Grandmaster. If the producers had chosen one of these plots and taken it seriously, they could have had a good film on their hands. To me, the whole Hela story was the main story, but the producers give both stories the same amount of weight, which just makes the film disjointed. Whether or not they had chosen either storyline, there's still another big problem. Thor is now a full-out comedy franchise. They've reduced Thor to a big, stupid buffoon who just cracks jokes in this movie. I believe it started with the YouTube clips where Thor has a roommate or something like that, and it's devolved to this. I mean, see that right there? See that? That's the Thor we get throughout most of this film. From the beginning, the very first scene, Thor's cracking jokes. He's chained up in front of Surtur, and that's played for laughs. And the joke goes on way too long, which is the problem with a lot of the jokes in this film. There's another creature, I don't know his name, he's made of rocks. He looks like a bluish gray version of the Thing. He speaks with a Cockney accent. And everything he says is like he's some surfer dude. And everything he says is supposed to be funny, and it's not. I guess the producers realized we've kind of f***ed up this character from the beginning. So, it. Let's just make this a balls-out comedy. And they really go all out with the comedy. The majority of the characters in this movie are all about jokes. The only character, I can think of a couple characters off the top of my head, Hela and Scourge are the only two characters that kind of bring any kind of weight to the film. Even Bruce Banner is reduced to a babbling idiot. Like I said, just about every character in this movie is played for laughs or comes off as goofy. Even Doctor Strange isn't safe in the cameo that he appears in. He's played for laughs. They introduced Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, because it just so happens that she's on the same planet where Thor is taken hostage. She does a wonderful British accent. For a second, I thought she was a British actress. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought she's American, right? Which she is. But even her character, lame backstory, does not explored, and she plays a drunk for the most of when we see her. I don't know whose idea it was. I don't know if it's canon. I really don't care if it is canon. They take away two qualities that make Thor, at least the Thor that I used to read. Mjolnir is a unique attribute of Thor. So what do? They take it away. They take away the hammer, and now Thor truly is just a big, dumb football jock. They cut off his hair, and they take away his hammer. He does not have his hammer for at least 2/3, if not more, of this film. You know what he gets in place of his hammer? He gets swords. All of a sudden, he knows how to use swords. He gets laser guns. He gets spaceships to fly. Valkyrie gets a laser cannon on a spaceship to shoot. Scourge, the Executioner, played by Carl Urban, Dr. McCoy in the new Star Trek reboots. He gets his axe taken away, and he gets a couple of AK-47s. So this movie is less Thor than it is Buck Rogers or Asgardians with AKs. For whatever reason, they decide to kill off Odin. I don't know if he's actually dead, But his scene with Anthony Hopkins, boy, Anthony Hopkins is just like, F it, just give me the check. Somehow, for some reason, his death causes Hela to come into the universe or into the 9 realms. And for whatever reason, Hela is Thor's sister. I don't know how that plays anything into the plot, whatever. That reveal does absolutely nothing to advance the plot. It has no consequence whatsoever. I just didn't care about any of these characters. I just couldn't take any of them seriously. The only character I really found any kind of dimension to, and they did nothing with this character, was Scourge. I found his story to be what story he had, where he turns traitor to Asgard when Hela comes onto the scene. And we see him kind of struggle with his loyalty to Asgard versus his well-being and playing along with Hela. And eventually he redeems himself, but he's only on screen for maybe 10 minutes. This movie just doesn't know what it wants to be. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is to blame. I'm seeing this effect in movies now, where you pump up a soundtrack that has a retro sound to it, and this movie does the same thing. Sometimes the music is symphonic, other times it's clearly synthesizer driven, which only adds to the schizo feeling of this movie. And you try to add in lame humor, and then all of a sudden, you're not being true to any of the characters. You're just guilty of mass producing a formula that succeeded in another franchise. I'll give the movie credit for 2 things. I already mentioned one of them. The movie showed me that Tessa Thompson can pull off a spot-on British accent. Second thing, it gives us a Hulk that talks. Now, I've been asking for that ever since, I don't know, when did Ang Lee's Hulk come out? Was that 2004 or something? Whenever it was. I've been saying, give me a talking Hulk, and they do that here, and it does work. The Hulk is a great character in this movie, but again, he's given some sort of sense of humor that comes out of nowhere. I mean, is this Marvel's idea of counteracting all of the darkness of DC? Did we have to go this far in the opposite direction? This movie actually had me reevaluating Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Okay, maybe I'm going too far. Maybe that's a little bit crossing the line. But there's gotta be a middle ground where we can be funny and we can be serious when required. I think I would have liked this movie a lot better if it had a different tone and if Thor were treated with more respect. I hated this movie. I was angry when I walked out of the theater on this movie. I was literally tempted to walk out halfway through this movie because my time is valuable. If the filmmakers don't give it, why should I? I think I know who to blame in part for this tragedy of a film. Apparently, Chris Hemsworth and Kevin Smith played a hand or a role in what I saw on screen. I saw on my Twitter feed earlier this little gem from Vanity Fair. It was Hemsworth's idea to cut his hair and destroy the hammer, moves that director Waititi, whom Hemsworth describes as also being sick of old Thor, wholeheartedly endorsed. Hemsworth credits Kevin Smith, whom he once heard bashing the Thor franchise on a podcast, for inspiring him to speak his mind to Feige. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly, I'm going with Feige. Hearing someone like Smith, who represents the fanboy world, was such a kick in the ass to change gears, Hemsworth says. We sort of had nothing to lose. People didn't expect what we did with it this time around. And there you have it. Thanks, Chris. And of course, the movie is killing it at the box office. I think I saw a report that said it was $118 million. It's made that much money so far. And I know it's got a huge rating, 93% score on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 84% by audience. Hey, what can I say? In the world we're living in today, all sense has gone out the window. And that's the martini.